Teo sat alone at the corner table of the cosmic lounge, nursing a drink that tasted like nothing special. The bar was crowded with traders, mercenaries, and travelers from every corner of the galaxy. Tall blue creatures with tentacles mixed with small metallic beings that clicked and hummed. The air smelled like smoke, spilled drinks, and the strange perfume that came from the Vexthar merchants in the back booth. He had been on Station Meridian for 3 days now. It was a neutral trading hub, a place where no single species ruled and everyone was supposed to get along. Teo worked as a cargo handler, moving boxes and containers from ships to warehouses. It was honest work, quiet work, and it paid enough to keep him fed and housed in a small room on the lower levels of the station. Earth felt very far away. Mars, where he had spent the last 10 years, felt even farther. Teo did not think much about home anymore. He had learned that thinking about things you could not change only made you sad. So he worked, he slept, and sometimes he came to bars like this to sit alone with his thoughts and a bad drink. The bar door opened with a hiss of air, and a group of humans walked in. Teo recognized the type immediately. These were not dock workers like him. These were engineers, builders, the kind of people who worked on big projects and made good money. They wore uniforms with symbols on the sleeves, and they moved like they belonged in a place like this. One of the women in the group looked at Teo and froze. Even from across the room, he could see her eyes go wide. "Teo?" she called out, moving toward him. He recognized her then, Mira, his sister. It had been 4 years since he had seen her last, back on Mars 7 colony. She looked stronger now, older, but her smile was the same. "Mira," he said quietly as she reached his table. "You look well." She laughed and hugged him, not caring that he did not really hug her back. "I look well? You look like you haven't slept in a month. What are you doing on Station Meridian? Last I heard you were still on Mars." "I was," he said. "Now I am here. The work was done. I came to try something different." Mira pulled up a chair and sat next to him. Her crew of engineers gathered around nearby tables. They were celebrating something, Teo could tell. They were loud and happy, and they kept looking at Mira like she was the leader, the one who had made something good happen. "We just finished the biggest project of our lives," Mira said, still smiling. "We built a new power station on the outer moon of Kepler Station. Took us 8 months, but it is done. We did it perfectly, no accidents, no problems. Now we are celebrating before we go back home." "That is good," Teo said. He meant it. His sister was smart and strong, and she had always worked hard. "You always were good at building things." They talked for a while, the kind of polite conversation between people who were family, but had not been close in a long time. Mira told him about her crew, about the places she had traveled, about the strange things she had seen on different worlds. Teo listened and nodded and occasionally said something. He was not good at talking much, but he was good at listening. Everything was fine. Everything was normal. And then the Zircothians arrived. They came in as a group of 6, tall and frightening to look at. They were over 7 feet tall with hard, smooth skin that looked like black metal. Their faces were more like the faces of insects than anything else, with eyes that were too large and mouths that had too many parts to them. They wore expensive clothes and moved like they owned the bar, like they owned the station, like they owned the galaxy itself. The Zircothians were traders from a system far away. Everyone on the station knew about them. They were rich and they were mean, and they always got what they wanted. Most aliens feared them because Zircothians were known to be extremely violent and extremely strong. One of the Zircothians looked at Mira's table and said something in his own language. The other Zircothians laughed, a sound like rocks breaking. Then one of them walked toward Mira's group. "This table," the Zircothian said, pointing with a long, thin finger. "We want this table. You move now." Mira's crew looked uncomfortable. They were engineers, not fighters. They did not want trouble. "We just got here," one of them said quietly. "There are other tables." "I do not want other tables," the Zircothian said. His voice was cold and hard like ice. "I want this table. You leave or we make you leave." Teo watched from his corner. He was not involved. This was not his problem. He had learned a long time ago that it was better to stay out of other people's problems. But then the Zircothian pushed Mira's engineer friend, a young woman named Junhee, and she fell backward against another chair. Teo felt something move inside his chest. It was a feeling he knew well. It was the feeling that said something was wrong and something needed to be made right. He stood up slowly from his table. The noise of the bar seemed to fade away as he walked toward the Zircothian. People noticed. Aliens from a dozen different species turned to look. "Leave them alone," Teo said. His voice was quiet, but something in the way he said it made the Zrakothian stop and turn to face him. The Zrakothian looked at Teo, and for a moment there was a silence in the bar. Then the Zrakothian started to laugh. The other Zrakothians laughed too. "You?" the Zrakothian said. "A human? You tell me what to do? You are one of the weakest species in this galaxy. You have no special powers. You have no hard skin. You cannot even breathe in most atmospheres without a suit. You think you can tell me anything?" Teo did not smile or frown. He just looked at the Zrakothian with calm, empty eyes. "I am telling you once," Teo said. "Leave these people alone. Walk away now." The Zrakothian stepped closer. "Or what, little human? Or what will you do?" "I do not want this," Teo said. "But if you touch anyone here again, I will hurt you. And then I will hurt the rest of your friends too." The bar had gone very quiet now. Everyone was watching. The Zrakothian looked at his friends and then looked back at Teo. He was smiling, but it was not a kind smile. "You are funny," the Zrakothian said. Then he turned to his friends and raised his hand. "Kill the human." All 6 Zrakothians started moving toward Teo at the same time. The humans and other aliens scrambled to get away from the table. Mira stood up, her face pale with fear and worry. She wanted to say something to stop this, but there was nothing she could do. Teo cracked his knuckles and rolled his shoulders. He felt calm and clear, the way he always felt right before something hard needed to be done. His arms felt heavy and ready. His legs felt strong. His mind felt sharp and focused on one simple thing. He needed to make sure these aliens did not hurt his sister or her friends. The first Zrakothian reached him, and Teo stepped forward to meet him. Around them, the bar seemed to hold its breath. No one knew what was about to happen, but everyone knew that something big was starting, something that would change everything. The first Zrakothian threw a punch at Teo with a speed that should have been impossible for something so large. Teo moved his head an inch to the side, and the fist passed by like a dark wind, hitting the wall behind him and leaving a crack in the solid metal. The Zrakothian did not stop. He kept coming, throwing punch after punch, each one fast and hard. Teo ducked under the attacks and hit the Zrakothian in the side of his body, right where his ribs would be. He felt something break under his fist. The Zrakothian made a sound like metal bending and staggered back one step, but he did not go down. The other 5 Zrakothians moved in now, trying to surround Teo and attack him all at once. This would have worked against most creatures. Most creatures would have been crushed and defeated by 6 powerful aliens attacking together. But Teo was not like most creatures. He had worked for 10 years in the mines of Mars. He had moved rocks that weighed more than a human body. He had survived in places where most beings would die in minutes. He had learned how to push his body past pain, past tiredness, past everything that told him to stop. And now, in this bar on a neutral station in the middle of the galaxy, all of that experience came to one sharp point. A Zrakothian grabbed his arm, and Teo twisted his body and used the alien's own strength to throw him into another Zrakothian. Both of them crashed to the ground. Another Zrakothian came from his left, and Teo blocked the blow with his forearm, feeling something crack. Pain shot up his arm, bright and clear, and he ignored it. He kicked back with his heel and felt it connect with something soft. The Zrakothian bent over, and Teo brought his elbow down hard on the alien's back. The bar was chaos now. Bottles were breaking. Tables were being knocked over. Humans and aliens were running toward the doors, trying to get away from the fight. The bar's security systems began to activate, recording everything. And Teo did not even notice because he was focused on only one thing: keeping fighting. His broken arm was now useless, hanging at his side. One of the Zrakothians had scratched him deep across his side when he had been too slow to avoid it, and blood was soaking into his shirt. Another Zrakothian had hit him in the face, and his left eye was starting to swell shut. He could taste blood in his mouth, but Teo kept moving. He kept hitting. He kept pushing forward. The Zrakothians were surprised. This was not supposed to happen. They were strong. They were fast. They were warriors from a species that had never been defeated in a physical fight. They had killed many creatures from many species. Nothing should have been able to stand against them. Yet this human, this soft, weak human with no special powers and no hard skin, kept coming. Even when he was hurt, he kept fighting. Even when he should have fallen, he stayed on his feet. One Zerkothian tried to run away, but Teo limped after him and pushed him against the wall. The Zerkothian's head hit the wall hard and he stopped moving. Another Zerkothian tried to escape through the bar's back exit, but Teo pulled him back and threw him into the bartender's counter. The bartender, a wise old Krell who had worked on the station for many years, moved out of the way without complaining. He had seen many fights and he could tell which one was not a fair fight. The third Zerkothian and fourth Zerkothian were now fighting Teo together, but they were fighting without hope. They could feel the difference in their bodies now. They were getting more tired. Teo was getting more tired too, but he was not stopping. Something in him was different from them. Something in him could keep going when everything should have told him to quit. When the third Zerkothian finally fell to the ground and did not get up, and when the fourth Zerkothian backed away and raised his hands to show that he was giving up, Teo stood in the middle of the destroyed bar, breathing hard, covered in blood that was mostly his own. Of the 6 Zerkothians who had attacked him, 5 were on the ground. 1 was unconscious. 1 was being sick in a corner. 1 had both his arms broken and could not move. 1 had a concussion and could barely see. And 1 was sitting against the wall holding his ribs and breathing in short, painful breaths. The first Zerkothian, the one who had started everything, was standing but barely. He was bleeding from his mouth and his nose. He was looking at Teo with something in his eyes that the other Zerkothians had never felt before. It was fear. "This is not possible," the Zerkothian said in a voice that shook. "We are the strongest. You are weak. This is not possible." Teo could not answer him right away because he had to breathe. His whole body hurt. His broken arm hurt. His side hurt where he had been scratched. His ribs felt like they had been hit with hammers. He was pretty sure he had lost a tooth, but he was still standing and the Zerkothian was still looking at him with fear. Finally, Teo spoke. His voice was quiet, but everyone in the bar heard it. "We do not fight to win," he said, still breathing hard. "We fight because it is right. We do not stop because we cannot imagine losing. We stop when the fight is over." Mira rushed to her brother and grabbed his unbroken arm. She was crying and shaking. "Teo, your arm. Your side. We have to get you to the medical center," she said. But Teo was looking at the last standing Zerkothian. "Go," he said to the alien. "Take your friends. Get medical help. And do not come back here." The Zerkothian did not need to be told twice. He helped 2 of his friends get up and they stumbled toward the door. 2 others were helped by station security that had finally arrived. 1 was still unconscious and had to be carried on a stretcher. As they left, every alien in the bar, the Vexthar warriors, the Krell academics, the Cathan merchants, and even a Valorian peacekeeping officer who had been in the corner eating dinner, all stared at Teo with expressions that were hard to understand. It was not respect exactly. It was not quite fear. It was something new. It was recognition of something they had never seen before. Teo let Mira help him into a chair. He was finally starting to feel how hurt he was now that the fight was over, but he was smiling a little bit. Not because he was happy that he had hurt people, but because he had done what needed to be done. He had protected his sister and her friends. That was all that mattered. The bar was quiet now. The only sound was Teo breathing heavy, and the distant sound of the station's security system still recording, still sending information about this fight to computers all across the station. In a few minutes, that recording would start to travel beyond the station. It would go to the human colonies. It would go to the galactic networks. It would go to military academies and to the offices of ancient alien governments that had ruled the galaxy for millions of years. Everything was about to change, but Teo did not know that yet. All he knew was that his arm was broken, his side hurt, and he needed to see a doctor as soon as possible. Mira held his good hand and looked at him with tears still running down her face. "That was the most stupid and brave thing I have ever seen anyone do," she said. Teo looked at his sister and nodded slowly. "I know," he said, "but you are safe. That is what matters." The security camera recording left the cosmic lounge at the speed of light, traveling through the vast networks of space that connected the stations, colonies, and ships of the galaxy. Within 12 hours, every military headquarters in the known universe had seen it. Within 24 hours, it had been watched by billions of beings from hundreds of different species. Scientists studied the fight frame by frame, trying to understand what they were seeing. Military commanders watched it again and again, making notes and asking questions. Xenobiologists gathered in research centers to discuss what this meant. The footage was titled, "The Tavern Fight," when a human single-handedly defeated 6 Dracothian warriors, and it had more views than anything else in galactic history. In the offices of the Cathan Trading Consortium, the highest leaders sat in a circle and watched the recording without speaking. When it ended, one of them, an ancient Cathan named Torvex who had been making trades for 500 years, turned to the others with worry in his eyes. "This changes everything," Torvex said. "We have been thinking about humans as simple workers, people to hire for cheap labor. But look at what they are capable of. Look at what this one human did alone, injured and outnumbered." Another Cathan spoke up. "We have contracts with human colonies. We have humans working on our trading stations. What if they decide they want more? What if they decide they want to take what we have? We need to renegotiate our agreements with humanity," Torvex said. "And we need to do it carefully. These creatures are not as weak as we thought." On the Vexthar homeworld, in a great hall where military leaders gathered, there was more concern. The Vexthar had always believed that their species was the strongest, the most military advanced civilization in the galaxy. They had conquered many worlds. They had fought many wars. But in 500 years of recorded history, they had never seen anything like what happened in the Cosmic Lounge. A female Vexthar general named Kryven studied the recording with military precision. She watched how Teo moved. She watched how he never gave up, never stepped backward, never accepted defeat even when it seemed impossible. "This human does not fight the way we fight," Kryven said to the other military leaders. "We fight with tactics and training and the desire to win. But this human fights with something else, something more fierce. He fights like his life means nothing, and that makes him more dangerous than any warrior I have ever seen." The Krell Scientific Collective requested the recording be sent to their research centers immediately. The Krell were a species of tall, thin beings with very large brains. They had studied many forms of combat and warfare over their long existence. They assigned their best researchers to analyze what made the human so exceptional. The lead researcher, a Krell named Jen Kor, spent 48 hours watching and rewatching the fight. Then he wrote a report that would be read by every major government in the galaxy. "Humans possess a unique neurological structure," the report said. "When they are in combat, their bodies release chemicals that suppress pain and increase focus. They can enter what we call a flow state, where they become almost transcendent. Additionally, humans have an emotional component to their violence that we do not fully understand. They do not fight only to win. They fight to protect. They fight to be right. And this emotional component makes them more fierce, more dangerous, and more unpredictable than any other species we have studied. Their potential in combat is extraordinary and somewhat frightening." The Valorian peacekeeping force had to reconsider their entire understanding of galactic security. The Valorians had always believed that their size, their weapons, and their training made them the best peacekeepers in the galaxy. But now they were watching a single human defeat 6 Dracothians without any weapons at all, just his body and his mind. The Valorian commander, a large blue being named Valoris, called an emergency meeting. "We may have made a serious mistake," he said to his officers. "We have been treating humans as if they are like other species. But they are not. We need to study them more carefully. We need to understand them better. And we need to be very careful about how we interact with them in the future." The governments of alien species across the galaxy began to discuss what should be done about humans. Some wanted to restrict human travel. Some wanted to limit human involvement in trade. Some wanted to simply watch them more carefully. But all of them were afraid. On Mars 7 colony, where Teo had worked before coming to Station Meridian, the humans who knew him were suddenly important and famous. News reporters wanted to talk to them. Researchers wanted to study where Teo came from. The colony's governor received messages from alien governments asking questions about human biology, human psychology, and human capabilities. One news reporter asked Teo's old boss, a human named Daijung, what he thought about the fight. Teo was always quiet, Daijung said. He worked hard. He never caused any trouble. But I always knew there was something in him, something strong. I think what people are not understanding is that this is not just about Teo. This is about all humans. We are all like this. We do not give up. We protect what we love, and we keep fighting when other species would have already stopped. The story spread and spread. News channels discussed it. Politicians debated it. Parents told their children about the human who defeated 6 aliens. Some alien children thought it was amazing. Some thought it was scary. A week after the fight, a message arrived at Station Meridian. It came from the Galactic Council, the ancient governing body that made decisions for all the civilized worlds. The message said that the council wanted to speak to a human representative about what had happened. Mira brought the message to Tayo, who was in the station's medical center. His arm was in a healing cast. His side was wrapped in bandages. His black eye had turned many different colors as it healed. "They want to talk to you," Mira said. "They want you to come to the council and explain." Tayo looked out the window of the medical center at the stars beyond the station. "I did not do anything special," he said. "I just protected you. I just refused to let them hurt someone I love." "That is exactly what is special about humans," Mira said, "and the whole galaxy is starting to understand that. You are going to have to be the one to explain it to them." Tayo did not want this. He did not want to be famous. He did not want to be important. He just wanted to go back to carrying boxes in the warehouse and drinking bad drinks in quiet bars. But he knew that something had changed. The whole galaxy was looking at his species differently now, and somehow he would have to help them understand. The recovery period ended. Tayo's arm was still not completely healed, but it was strong enough for travel. The medical drones removed his bandages. The swelling in his face went down, and he prepared to go before the most powerful beings in the galaxy to explain why a human would fight 6 aliens alone and never give up. He had no idea what he would say. He had no idea what they would ask him. All he knew was that his sister believed in him, and that somehow this fight in a bar had made every alien race in the galaxy fear humans, and the fear had turned into something else. It had turned into respect, and respect was the first step toward understanding. The Galactic Council met in a chamber so large that it took 20 minutes to walk from one side to the other. The ceiling was so high that it seemed to disappear into darkness above. The walls were made of materials that reflected light in strange and beautiful ways, materials that had been created 10,000 years ago and still looked perfect. Tayo stood in the center of the chamber, and he felt very small. Around him, in seats that rose up like the seats in an ancient theater, sat representatives from every major species in the galaxy. There were the tall, thin Krell. There were the large blue Vexthar warriors. There were the insectoid Chthon merchants in their special pressurized containers. There were hundreds of other beings from hundreds of other worlds. All of them were looking at him. Mira stood behind Tayo, a hand on his shoulder for support. An official from the council, a being that looked like he was made of living crystal and light, began to speak. "We have gathered to understand what happened at the Cosmic Lounge on Station Meridian," the official said. "A human, alone and outnumbered, defeated 6 Zrakothian warriors. This is unprecedented. Zrakothians have never been defeated in direct combat. Yet you, Tayo, managed to do what no other species has accomplished." The official looked down at Tayo. "The question we must ask is why. We must understand what you are. We must understand if humans are a threat to galactic stability." Tayo did not know what to say at first. He looked out at all the different faces, all the different eyes, all looking at him with curiosity and fear and confusion. Then he began to speak, his voice steady and clear. "I am not special," Tayo said. "I am just a human. I did what any human would do. I saw people I care about being hurt and I stopped it. That is all. But your abilities are unusual," one of the Vexthar generals said. "Your strength, your endurance, your refusal to surrender. These things are not normal among your species or any species we know." "We are not that strong," Tayo said, "and we do not have any special powers. But we have something else. We have the ability to keep going when everything in our body tells us to stop. We have the ability to ignore pain. We have the ability to refuse to give up." A tall Krell researcher stood up. "Can you explain this? Why can humans do this? Why can your species override the signals from their own bodies?" Tayo thought about this for a moment. He thought about his 10 years in the mines of Mars. He thought about all the times he had pushed himself past what he thought was possible. "Because we are not just our bodies," Tayo said. "We are our choices too. When something matters, when something is important, we choose to keep going. We choose to keep fighting. We choose to not accept defeat. And when you choose something strong enough, your body listens. Your body does what your mind tells it to do." The chamber was very quiet. Many of the beings there had never thought about anything in this way before. For most alien species, their limits were real limits. Their bodies would stop them. Their minds had to accept the limits their bodies had. But humans were different. Humans could make their minds so strong that their bodies would do things that should have been impossible. Then one of the Zerkothians stood up, the one who had been leading the fight. He was still healing, still moving in a way that showed he was in pain, but he stood straight and looked at Teo with eyes that had changed since the fight. "I speak for my species," the Zerkothian said. "We came to the council to demand that humans be restricted. We came to say that humans are too unpredictable and too dangerous. We came to say that humans should not be allowed in civilized space." Teo waited to hear what the Zerkothian would say next. "But I have changed my mind," the Zerkothian said. "I have studied the recording many times. I have learned things about myself in defeat that I never would have learned in victory. This human beat me because he chose to. He chose to be brave. He chose to protect others. He chose to keep fighting when he should have fallen. These are not bad things. These are good things. My species has been wrong about humans." Many beings in the chamber made sounds of surprise. The Valorian commander stood up. "I propose that we do the opposite of what some have suggested," the Valorian said. "I propose that we give humanity a seat at the council. I propose that we recognize humans as a species of great potential and great value. They have shown us something we had forgotten. They have shown us that strength is not just about power. Strength is about choice. Strength is about refusing to give up." One after another, species after species stood up and spoke in support of humanity. The Cathan merchants wanted to create new trade agreements. The Krell wanted to study human philosophy and psychology. The Vexthar wanted to invite human advisors to their military schools. The Valorians wanted human partners in their peacekeeping force. But then another Zerkothian stood up, one of the ones who had been hurt in the fight. "You are all making a mistake," this Zerkothian said. "You think that because this human is civilized, because he speaks kindly and explains himself, that humans are not dangerous. But that is why they are most dangerous. They are dangerous because they are unpredictable. They are dangerous because they will choose to die rather than give up. They are dangerous because they cannot be intimidated." Teo stepped forward. "I am not here to be dangerous," he said. "I am here to be peaceful. Humans do not want war. We do not want to hurt anyone. We just want to be treated fairly. We just want to be respected. We just want the chance to show that we are more than we appear to be. That is exactly what makes you dangerous," the Zerkothian said. But the council had already decided. They voted, and the vote was almost unanimous. Humanity was recognized as a species capable of council membership. A human seat was created, and Teo, whether he wanted it or not, was chosen to be humanity's first representative. When it was over, when the official ceremonies were complete, Teo and Mira left the chamber. They walked through the halls of the council building, past aliens from hundreds of different species, all looking at them with new respect, with new fear, with new understanding. "You did it," Mira said, smiling. "You changed everything." "I did not want to change anything," Teo said. "I just wanted to protect you." "That is why you did change everything," Mira said. "Because you were not trying to be impressive. You were just being yourself. You were just being human." Teo looked at his sister and nodded slowly. He understood now. The fight in the bar had not been about him being special. It had been about him being normal. It had been about humans being what they had always been. And the galaxy had finally noticed.